Bow, 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 bow. Do da dee dee da 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 dee da dee dee. Welcome to Rainbows Are Circles, a podcast exploring human potential and everyday wonder. What possibilities open up for us when we explore life with optimism, curiosity, and an open mind? Join me, Julie Malari, as we wake up to wonder and speak with inspirational guests on the topics of personal development, alternative health, and even magical, mystical, yet often misunderstood practices. Are you ready? Do 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 do. Ba be dee bee ba dee bee. Wow 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 wow. Yeah. Hi everyone. Today we're talking about how breathing and sound can be used as very effective tools for relieving stress and anxiety, for clearing out stagnant energy in our bodies, for healing emotional trauma, and for overall self-regulation. We're going to start by doing a super quick breathing exercise that will help you to directly experience the healing power of breath and sound. We're going to take 4 breaths together, and I'll tell you what they are right now, and then I'll walk you through them. All you have to do is notice how you feel during each breath that you take. So the first breath is going to be a slow inhale and exhale through the nose. The second breath will be a slow inhale through the nose and an exhale through the mouth. The third breath will be a slow inhale through the nose, and then you're going to sigh the breath out on the exhale. And the fourth breath is going to be a slow inhale through the nose, and then on the exhale, you're going to open your mouth as wide as you can and just let the breath fall out while you make an ah sound. Are you ready? Okay. Take a slow breath in through your nose and exhale through your nose. Notice how each breath feels. Now inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Inhale through your nose and sigh the breath out. Inhale through your nose. Open your mouth wide and make an ah sound. Ah. So, what did you notice during that exercise? Did you feel differently when you breathed in these different ways? Did one type of breathing feel more relaxing than another? Did you feel any release of stress or tension? You might have noticed that when we breathe more deeply and slowly in general, we feel a sense of release and relaxation. Add in a little ah sound, and that creation of sound and resonance in the body can have an even stronger relaxation effect. In addition to helping you to feel more relaxed and calm, repetitive breathing in this way can help our blood pressure to decrease, help our heart rate to decrease, and it can help us to feel a little bit more grounded, calm, and just better overall. In today's episode, we're speaking with Inbal, an incredible woman who guides people through powerful breath and sound healing workshops, which help them to tap into their intuition and capacity to self-heal. In addition to being an artist, designer, healer, and mother, Inbal is also a breathwork and sound meditation guide based in the Bay Area. She created SONOPRANA, a unique blend of breathwork and sound healing that helps to alleviate stress, stagnant energy, and emotional pain, allowing the practitioner to access greater clarity, focus, peace, and well-being. The type of breath and sound healing that Inbal leads is different and a lot more detailed and in-depth than what we practiced just a minute ago. But hopefully that little exercise gave you an idea of how quickly we can change the way that we feel simply by breathing in a certain way and creating sound. In this episode, we're going to discuss what causes stress and trauma, and how does energy get stuck in our bodies? How can we use breathwork to release stress from the body to bring about healing? How can the voice be used as an instrument to move energy in the body to bring about balance and well-being? What is a mantra, and how can we use them to tap into our heart's deepest desires so we can live in line with our highest self? Inbal will actually guide us through a practice that will help you to create your own powerful mantra so you can stay focused on an empowering thought that will help guide you through life. Let's wake up to SONOPRANA wonder with Inbal Edgar. Are you ready? Hi, Inbal. Good morning.
Hi, Julie.
So let's begin our interview just by hearing a little bit about your story and how you came to this path of sound and breathwork healing.
Thank you. That's a really big question for me. I think about it in terms of when I think it started and when it really started. And when I think it started was about 5 years ago. But where I suspect it really started was in my teens. And I was born and raised in Israel, and I had a bit of a rough time growing up. And I went to the Israeli army. It was a mandatory service, and I've had all kinds of life experience as a young adult that have really shaped my view of the world, not from a place of, let's just say, confidence or from a place of trusting the universe that it has the best intentions for me, but from a place of survival. From a place of reactivity, from a place of hypervigilance. And I suspect a lot of people are walking around with similar operating system of how to interface with the world or with their environment. And I wasn't really aware of it. I just went for it, and I went for my career, and I studied industrial design and education, and I graduated in 2002, and I left the country. And I was determined to build a career in design because it was what I felt at the time was my soul's purpose. I've always been an artist. I've always been a maker. And I really wanted to create products and experiences that help people. And that started a 16-year career in design, which has taken me all over the world, helped me win awards with teams and for the work that I've done, get a lot of recognition, and really be with amazing thought leaders and in the presence of exceptional human beings that were very good at their craft. And I've learned a lot along the way. And I've also had the privilege of leading teams, a lot of teams, and a lot of designers on the creative path. And I started noticing the more senior I became, when I became a creative director, and I was routinely tasked to create a vision and to sell the vision and to deliver the vision, whatever the vision may be, to the client. I started noticing that the most successful clients and the most successful designers had a very unique set of qualities. And those were the same qualities that I was cultivating in myself and in my teams to be able to do this, to do this work well, which is curiosity, emotional resilience, and courage. It's easy to say this word, but it's a big word. It takes courage to trust in the creative process and to trust in your vision and to trust in yourself, so that you can go beyond your comfort zone and envision the future, right? So I spent a lot of time working with people in that capacity. And I realized that after 16 years in design, I still love design a lot, But what I loved as much as design, and potentially even more, was working with people, was helping people understand and discover their capacity for creativity and their capacity to go beyond their comfort zone. And personally, I feel like there's this agreed upon separation between personal and professional. But what I realized after working with so many people, and I'm talking about hundreds of people over 16 years, is that unresolved personal issues always show up in a professional setting in some way. There is really no separation because we're just one. We're human. We're the same person all day long, and we might change the behavior a little bit when we go to work because we're wearing a little bit more armor, because that's what's expected in a corporate setting. But really, underneath, there's all these internal processes that govern how we respond to teams and to group dynamic, and to be honest, really high pressure environments, which the design profession, professional design consulting, is very high stress. It is a very high stress environment, especially in the Bay Area, working with startups and really working under very tight timelines. So that is a little bit about my journey to arrive at the point that I was 5 years ago when I started doing my own personal work in a conscious way, because I realized that I had my own issues that I was carrying around, and I was very high functioning, and I was really doing great work, but inside there was some dissonance. And I was doing that for a long time, and I thought everything was good, and I was managing my stress, and I could do it. And it was very like a tough up and show up and, carry the stress for the team and really hold it all together. It was a very heroic, survival-based approach to everything. And then I had my son, and this was 6 years ago, and I was completely unprepared for the tenderness that came with that. And that spiritual, physical, emotional, and mental initiation of motherhood, and all the ways in which that brings up all one's unresolved issues. Right? It has a way of really breaking you open, of really bringing you to a raw, beautiful, tender place. So you can meet your baby and just be there for them and the energy that you need to hold. At the same time, this kind of strips you of a lot of your armor and your conditioning and the patterns that you've developed to kind of be the career woman or be whomever you were before this monumental moment in your life, right? As having a baby or a child. And that really started a 5-year process of unfolding for me, of really going deep into what was it that I was dealing with, what was preventing me from receiving and giving love in all its forms, what was triggering my nervous system response in unhelpful ways. And the other thing that I was drawn to is understanding the human mechanisms for attachment to pain. Because the more spiritual work that I did, I realized that it's really up to us to do the work of clearing and resolving our personal pain or emotional, challenges. Everybody's carrying around stuff, right? There's no person that's walking around with no trauma and no challenges in life. And that's the starting point. And the difference is, how do we meet those challenges? How do we respond to them? Right? That's what separates two people that seemingly have the same experience but have two very different lives.
Mm-hmm.
So I went on a very illuminating journey for me. I met some amazing teachers. I was so fortunate to find the right people, or they found me, I should say, and really open up to the idea that I can heal myself, and which was very empowering. And also to the idea that healing myself was just another creative process, and that I was uniquely skilled at doing that. And so there was a moment that clicked for me where I said, all the things I've been doing my entire career have brought me to this point where I can heal myself with the qualities that I've cultivated. And at the time, I wasn't thinking of helping other people. I was just still in my process. And, it didn't even occur to me that I'd be able somehow, someday, to work and share this. But in the last couple of years, that feeling has matured in me that I want to, at any capacity that I'm able to, at the level that I am now, to share this work with others.
Thank you for sharing that. That's a beautiful story. So it sounds like you, on the last 5-6 years, have been on this path of healing. What tools or modalities have you found to be the most helpful for you on that path of healing?
I would say reclaiming my voice and my access to self-expression. And it might sound strange for someone who's been in the creative profession for so long to say that, but I'm talking about expression that is directly connected to the heart, expression that comes from a place of vulnerability. And really, I have not allowed myself to be vulnerable in my life ever until very, very recently, where I felt actually, paradoxically strong enough and resilient enough and healed enough to say, well, here it is. Whatever it is that arises from the heart, that might not always be the best or most beautiful or feel the smartest, but whatever it is that arises, to honor it and be okay with any response that comes my way, right?
Yeah.
And so that has been tremendously healing my self-expression, connecting to my voice, singing again. For me, it started with song. I used to sing a lot when I was young, and then I stopped and I didn't sing for 20 years. And this work has really kind of brought me back to singing and to the power of the voice as a resonant instrument to really help move energy in the body and generate heart and mind and brain coherence. So that's one modality. And I've studied singing and medicine songs and vocal resonance with different teachers in the last 5-6 years. And that's a journey that I will always be on. I will always be with the teacher, learning, deepening this, because it's really limitless. Like you can go so deep. And then the other modalities that I've found was understanding personal energy. We're walking energy hubs. Every person is a bioelectric field, and the familiarity with our energy centers in our bodies, the familiarity with how we run energy, and has really been important for me, because that has enabled me to regulate my nervous system and to basically repattern the way my body responds to perception of threat, basically nervous system response, because a lot of the stress that I carry, that we carry in modern society, especially in urban corporate environment, is triggered by the perception of a threat. And that can be anything from a mean email, or from an overzealous boss, or from a competitive coworker. But for our body, it's perceived as an existential threat. And our system fires up and starts running the hormones and the chemicals that are designed to help us deal with this threat. So thousands and thousands of years ago, in the savannah or in the jungle, this was necessary, and this happened however many times it needed to happen. But in modern society, it happens almost all the time. And so our system gets perpetually triggered with the stress response, and over time it's really depleting. So one of the modality of understanding energy, and there's many books about this, understanding your energy centers, your chakras, understanding how to ground, understanding how to move energy through your body with breath and movement and sound and intention and meditation is really essential, because we live in our heads. We're connected to our phones, and our consciousness is not embodied most of the time. And there's a reason for this. We are rewarded for not being in our bodies. The more our consciousness engages with social media, with external demands like work or communication, we receive the rewards from the system, from the collective consciousness for this engagement, and it's intoxicating.
Mm.
So the act of bringing the consciousness back into the body, and it can be through breath or through sound or through meditation, is actually a radical act of self-reclamation. You're reclaiming your attention. And your attention really is the thing that leads your personal life force energy. Where your attention goes, your energy goes. Almost any teacher that I've had has taught this the first thing. It's the first thing that comes out of their mouth. So reclaiming our consciousness, reclaiming our attention, and bringing it back to our body is the first act in understanding how to heal ourselves and how to regulate how we respond to environmental stress.
Mm. That's really powerful. There was so much in there that I wanted to ask you about. The first thing was, I think many of us have this fear of being vulnerable, and this fear of like being really expressive and showing the world who we really are. Why do you think so many of us have that issue?
Well, I see it as fear of judgment, but that's kind of like, of course, it's fear of judgment, but that came from, at some point in our lives, we were told or made to feel, and I'll get back to that in a minute, that we were inadequate, that something about us was inadequate or was best kept to ourselves in the shadow, was not worthy of exposure or of recognition. And that's shadow. And so we all have shadow. And shadow is really just a word that we give in this work to any aspect of ourselves that goes unrecognized because it isn't socially acceptable, or we feel won't be socially acceptable, or even worse, will deem us unlovable. Right? So it all starts with the ability to receive love unconditionally. And receptivity to love and receptivity to receive, like just idea of receiving, it starts very, very early. And very early, I see it with my kid and with other mothers, is they believe what we tell them about themselves, because we're the figures of authority. And so that's why conscious parenting is so important, because you really need to think about and feel into the tone and the message that you're giving your kid, because that's when that impression of unworthiness is created very, very early. And we internalize it and we identify with it.
So Inbal, tell us about SONOPRANA. This is a type of sound and breathwork healing that you've kind of combined and created.
Yeah. SONOPRANA is just a word that to me describes the power of awareness to breath into sound. And it's, this is not a trademarked method or anything that I present as a method. What it means to me is returning to the body as the vehicle for the soul in this dimension and as a profoundly wise teacher that receives information all the time. So we are made of 70% water. And so our cells, every single cell in our body is constantly receiving information from the environment in the form of frequency and vibration. So if you've ever had a feeling that you're being watched behind you, and you turn around and you catch someone watching you, that's your body responding to that attention that's being put on you. That is intuition. It's a form of intuition. It's the body knows before the mind knows. The body picks up information before the senses do. And so the body receives a lot more input than throughout the day in 3 dimensions than the input that we actually get through our senses that goes into our brain. And so we're constantly processing information. And so the breath and the ability to think about sound and resonance as tools for bringing awareness into the body are the 2 things that I'm basing this practice on. We aren't brought up to think about our breath as a powerful instrument of self-regulation. It's changing now. I'm seeing it in schools and in kindergartens. There's all these beautiful curriculums that are teaching children how to be aware of their emotion, of their breath. So I know that it's changing. But if I think about my generation and up to very recently, the most recent generations, this wasn't really something that we talked about unless our parents were yogis. For me, thinking and accessing breath has been a very powerful way to bring back awareness. Now, we use breath work in many different ways, different patterns to get different responses from the body. Right? There's types of breath work that help us come back to focus. There's types of breath work that helps us fall asleep more easy. And then there's types of breath work that take us into deeply spiritual, psychospiritual places where we're able to tap into our ability to heal some core wounds in ourselves. And that is one of the breath approaches that I teach. And it's really helpful in helping release the charge from the body. So we walk around, we have this emotional charge, and many of us are carrying charge in the form of trauma or illness. And trauma is really anything from an accident or abuse, self-inflicted. It's really a big word that carries behind it really the idea that there's an imprint on your mental and physical system that is preventing you from having a healthy nervous system response to your life events. It can be really debilitating. And so the breath helps access the places in the body where that is stored. Okay. And so whatever is ready to be released, what is ready to be released and processed is allowed to come up when we practice this breath. We're not going after anything that's not ready because we honor the body's own process, which is nonlinear, of working through the stuff, and it's oftentimes very layered, right? We peel one layer, we clear it, and then the deeper next layer comes up, right? And so it's a constant process of going into the heart and the core of where this thought form was created, this painful thought form was created for us, right? So that's the breath. Sound, which is really kind of wrapped up in that because both practices are based on vibration and resonance and the felt sense, is our ability to use our voice as a resonant instrument to get ourselves back into a meditative state or a present state or calm ourselves down. And simply the act of singing, even if it's just a simple mantra, nothing complicated, But repeating a mantra is very calming for the mind, but it's also generating harmony in the body because we're running the same current, the same frequency, the same vibe over and over in our system. So anything that's out of alignment, any cell that is experiencing localized chaos, because chaos as the opposite of harmony, right, is being brought back into resonance with all the other cells. So all the cells get all the cells to resonate in the same vibration, the same frequency, then you're bringing yourself into a place of deep, deep calm and meditative state.
You mentioned earlier that you used to love to sing and then you didn't sing for 20 years. And I kind of had a similar experience where I used to sing in elementary school, middle school, and high school. And then during college and after, I didn't sing. I wasn't in any groups. It wasn't part of my life anymore. And last year, or the year before, I decided to just take like a singing class at the local community college. And the first class, we were just singing scales. And I was like tearing up the first day. And I realized, oh my gosh, I forgot how much I miss this and how much I love this and how healing singing and sound and that resonance can be in your body. So I love that you're bringing that element into your healing, into this healing practice. Can you give us an example of what one of those mantras might be?
So I think about mantras in two different ways. One is there is a very long history and lineage of mantras that come to us from India, that comes to us from Tibet. And these are very, very ancient mantras and thought forms and energy fields that have been created over and over and repeated over and over for thousands of years. So they're very powerful thought forms. And so you can tap into any one of those, and there are many. There are many. And it's a very simple Google search to say, because I wouldn't want to bring anything just randomly. Mm-hmm. But there is, if you look up healing mantras, you'll a lot of stuff, the same stuff will come up, because the power of these is already so ancient. Right? So if you think about a mantra as a place in an energetic field, a thought form field that thousands and millions of people go to in their hearts through chanting, then the more people chant, the more people go to it over a longer period of time, the more powerful it becomes. Right? That's why they've lasted so long, for so many years. So that's one way to think about the mantra. Whatever exists that's been around forever, that is powerful, that you can tap into, right? Mm-hmm. The other way that I think and use mantra is actually creating my own mantras. And that has to do with where I'm at in my life. What is the thing that I want to call in? What is the thing that I want to let go of? And what I would like to offer is actually the process of creating your own mantra, which is, I believe, more powerful than anything else. I mean, unless you're doing like a White Tara mantra or Medicine Buddha mantra, and then those are just so big and powerful that you can just really get lost in that. But when you work on your own mantra, the simple instruction is to do a short meditation and take a few deep breaths and connect to the heart and connect to the root. And the inquiry is, what is needed at this moment in time? What is your heart's longing? And if you're getting a response that feels like it's not as deep as it could be, then you can ask again, what is the heart's longing? And with the breath and with the intention, just go even deeper inward. It's like, what is the heart's longing? And if something comes up and you don't trust it, you ask why. Why is it coming up? And then ask again, what is my true heart's longing? And when you arrive to something that feels true, and you're able to put it into words, thought forms, then you write it down. And you write it down in the most distilled, clear, succinct way that you can. Without ifs, buts, and whens, without projection of hoping, but more in the sense that here is what I want. Here is what I'm calling in. So no doubt, and just no doubt. Just saying, this is what I'm calling this in. This is who I am. This is what I'm being. Right? And so a simple mantra that I like to use is, I am all I need to bloom. I am all I need to bloom. And that's just one of many, and you can conjure up your own mantra, and you can think of it as a spell, or you can think about it as a deep meditative state, and repeat it as many times as you feel into. In the Buddhist culture, you're encouraged to repeat these in a very specific number. But if that's not your lineage, then you can repeat however many times you want. And it helps to write those down so you can gaze at them at your desk or inside your wallet or on your phone. Is just keep it there. Keep that resonance of that thought form, of that emotion. Right? Manifesting is combining emotion with thought. It makes it that much more powerful.
That was really beautiful. As soon as I closed my eyes and you were talking through that, mine came up that felt the most resonant right now. So I'm gonna write it down later. Thank you. That's a really great tool. Yeah. Do you recommend people like revisiting their mantras like at certain times during the day or just whenever they can?
I think it's important to remember. I know it's very easy to forget. Life is so busy and we get carried away in the day and there's so many demands on our attention. And that has place and importance, right? We have jobs. We need to be very present for our jobs. We need to perform in, sometimes high stakes situations and environments. And we don't always have time to actually think about ourselves and what we want and where we fit into all of that. So I remember when I was working full-time as a creative director at this global design agency, and really the day was a whirlwind. I would have these brief moments where I would say, I really need to go for a walk. And just 5 minutes, take just 5 precious minutes from myself where I can fully be present with what my body's telling me, my emotion, whatever's coming up for me, so that I can come back to my desk or to my team and I've done my work. I've tuned in. And so I can show up for them better, right? So sometimes we don't even feel like we can take 5 minutes, but 5 minutes, anyone can take 5 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. So I recommend finding a place where you can actually be with yourself. And I'd say I've heard of some people just going to the bathroom to do it sometimes. Because, they don't have a meditation room at work, or there's no available rooms. I don't know what, but whatever it takes, just go in and just do your mantra, put your headphones on or whatever, and just go in. And it's really just about coming back to your center, right? Grounding, coming back to your center. So you're you're not responding to your environment from a place of reactivity. You're responding from a place of presence.
Yeah. Yes. Isn't it funny how when we're so busy, like sometimes you feel like you can't even go to the bathroom because I'm so busy. I can't even take that time. I can't even take a couple minutes. I know that a lot of nurses, like they're so busy during the day that sometimes they don't even have time to use the bathroom during their shift. And as I'm a flight attendant, and sometimes like when there's so much going on and everybody wants something and it's so busy, I like will just go into the bathroom and breathe and like calm myself down, because it's really hard not to take on that stress and that energy when there's delays, or people just get kind of all over the place when they're traveling sometimes. So the next time I hide in the bathroom, I'll repeat my mantra. Do you repeat it out loud, or do you just say it in your mind?
I go inside because you can actually resonate inside your body with your thought without vocalizing.
Ah.
Because your thought pattern generates a frequency, and the frequency goes through your entire body. Our bodies listen to our minds all the time. They're in constant attention. And so when our minds go into negative self-talk or anything that's really not in line with our highest good, I would say, our bodies listen to that too. So it's really important to think about the body, your body, as a extremely attentive, very amazingly complex instrument that is designed to self-heal. Designed to self-heal. And really what we do with healing is we're taking away the impediments, the energetic impediments for the body to heal itself. So once you start thinking about the body as something that responds to thought as resonance, thought as a frequency field, then you start being mindful of your thoughts. And you catch yourself, you're like, if you're engaging in negative self-talk, or you're you're internalizing failure, say something happened and it wasn't the greatest thing. And some people have tendency to internalize that and to take on the responsibility for that, even though they're not responsible for it. And so the body takes that on. And that becomes an energetic, something that's stagnant or stuck, right? It becomes a stone in that field that needs to be removed, right, from the energy body. So I find mantras, whether you speak it out loud or sing it or chant it in a group, is really powerful. But you can also go inside and repeat this mantra internally to yourself with your eyes closed and just visualize the resonance of those words, of that message, that clarity going through your body. The imagination is a powerful, powerful tool. And it's powerful tool because our bodies can't tell the difference between an experience and a thought. So you can literally think yourself into an orgasm. You can think yourself into joy. You can think yourself into depression. You can think yourself into any emotion, any state that you want, if you're able to control your thought, because your body's going to follow the thought. Okay? That's why it's so important I think mindfulness, this popularity of mindfulness is so good, because it really brings us into the thought. It's like, what is the thought? The thought is not me. I am not my thought. And once we stop identifying with the thought, we actually disconnect our physical response to the thought.
You mentioned briefly intuition earlier, and I have a hard time defining and really understanding intuition. Like, is it our gut response? Is it just a feeling of knowing? Is it our heart speaking? How do you define intuition, and how do we listen to it?
Those are beautiful questions. For me, And this is my take on it. There's certainly a lot of different ways to answer that. For me, intuition is a sense of knowing that isn't linear and that can be explained in any logical way. And we have more than one intelligence center in our bodies. We have at least 3. And there's been spiritual teachers in the past, and actually currently in present day, there's a beautiful information about this being written about and shared by Dr. Joe Dispenza, about the connection of intelligence to the body and ways of knowing. And the essence of it is that we have sometimes this feeling that we know something, but we can't explain it. And because our world and our lives are so left brain, rational, linear, and to be honest, in the Bay Area, obsessed with data and quantification, which is really just an obsession with divination, because everybody wants to know the future, right? So data as a modern form of divination is a whole nother topic, right? But back to this is that in our bodies, we can receive information through our senses, which goes through our brain, right? We have the processing. So the processing, and okay, the information came in, and it came in from this source. I know where it came from. I know what it means, and I know what to do with it, right? And that usually happens in our minds. The information that comes in through our root chakra, which is basically the womb, or the area where we have the pelvic or the reproductive systems. This is both for women and men. Sometimes we get some very clear information through there. Through our second chakra, it can receive information in the form of environmental things like emotions that people have around us. Sometimes we pick up on that stuff, and it comes into our bodies through that area, because that area is very sensitive to some basic things, right? So survival, threat, love, sexuality, attraction, all those things, that is felt in the body. Okay? Mm-hmm. And then we have, and that's kind of like what we call the gut. Right? The gut is, a lot of people say this is the second brain, and the gut microbiome actually controls the mind. So that's another science, right? And then there's the heart. And the heart is really the bridge between that very primal knowing that lives in the gut and the mental knowing and understanding that lives in the brain. And the reason breath and sound are so effective, they help us actually clear the channel. So we can feel it in our gut, we can feel it in our heart, we can feel it in our mind, and we can align. And so if we don't have full alignment, at least we know that we don't have full alignment, and we're aware of the fact that we're out of alignment, and we can correct or compensate so that we can actually maintain whatever is happening. Intuition is when you feel something in your body, and oftentimes we're taught to override it with our minds. For whatever reason, it's not real. Sometimes the mind chatter is so loud that it literally just bulldozes the very nuanced signals that our body gives us. Because it starts with a whisper. The body whispers, and it tells you, hey, something's not right. Or so-and-so is this, or you need to do this, or any number of little whispers that we get all day long. And we routinely override the whisper. Either it's too loud inside our head, or we actually don't trust it, because we were never taught to trust it. We were never taught to even notice it, right? And so sometimes your heart just knows. And when in those rare instances in life where you follow the heart, you can't explain it. And you don't always know immediately why you did it. But sometimes years after, you look back and you're like, that's why I did that. Because my heart knew years before I did, years before my mind did. My heart knew the right way, where I needed to go, what I needed to do. I keep bringing it back to the body. The body as a center of knowing. The body as a supercomputer for information, both linear and nonlinear. There's nothing wrong with linear mental processes. They're essential. They're very important for our success and our survival. It's just that our existence is incomplete when we don't make room and cultivate our connection to our body knowing, to our heart knowing, to our gut knowing. Okay? And then when we have all that information, we can actually make decisions from a much more empowered place.
Yes. Yes, because we prioritize so much, especially in the last 100 years, like this knowing, this mental, rational thinking. And I feel like now especially in the last decade, we're really starting to connect more to the heart and to the body, and to not listen to what our rational minds say, but know when to listen to which part and do it in a more holistic way.
Yeah. And I want to share that not everybody's in a privileged position to listen to the heart and act on it. I consider myself very fortunate that I'm able to pursue what has heart and meaning for me. And sometimes I'm reminded that many women and many men, they don't have the freedom to do that. And so actually becoming aware of the disconnect between the heart path and the whatever path is happening right now can actually be more painful. You actually don't want to know, or you want to numb because you feel like you can't do anything about it. So why even bring that up? And what I wanted to say is that actually just being in tune with that dissonance can help you make small incremental movements towards alignment. It doesn't have to be you quitting your job tomorrow. I mean, very few people can afford to do that. It doesn't have to be major radical changes. It can be just as simple as actually acknowledging the heart and acknowledging the gut and saying, I hear you. I understand. I'm receptive. Here's what I can do right now. And what I can do right now can be as small as take a pause and take 5 deep breaths. And just be with it without trying to fix it. Because we're so hardwired to fix and problem solve. And so we almost get into anxiety when we're faced with a problem that we can't fix. And if it's a perceived misalignment between the heart and the mind, the last thing we want to do is exasperate our situation and work ourselves up because we can't actually, we feel like we can't do enough about it. So a lot of this is self-compassion and presence, saying, well, I see this. I can't fix it all. It's a journey, and I'm going to take the first step, however small, and going into that alignment.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up, because we are in a very fortunate place. I mean, where we live and the opportunities that we have, and not everybody has those opportunities. And yeah, so it doesn't have to be something super dramatic like quitting your job or making a huge complete change that's going to flip your life around, but it can be done in those small moments of just tuning in and noticing the dissonance, listening to yourself, and then making small incremental changes and celebrating those small wins to bring yourself into that alignment.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, Inbal, how can people learn more or work with you if they're wanting to dive in a little bit deeper?
So I'm based in the Bay Area, and I love working with groups. There's something amazing that happens when people get together and do this work, and it's literally magical. You can feel it in the air. And so that's a very specific type of healing, because being witnessed by people as you do this work is also powerful. And so I hold monthly circles, and all the events are posted on my website and on my social media. So it's very easy to kind of tune in and see what's happening. You can sign up for my newsletter. I send maybe 2 a month. I really don't send that much, but it usually has all the information. And I work with individuals, and the individual work that I do is really in service of helping that person remove whatever blocks they have for achieving what they want to achieve. And it could be anything. It can be starting a family. It can be completing a project. It can be working through some health issues that have been resolved on a medical level, on a physical level, but need further resolution on the energetic level. Because everything has physical and energetic bodies, right? So sometimes we might be cured by modern medicine, which is amazing, but there's an energetic charge that needs to be also resolved, right? So I work with people in that capacity. I do one-on-one sessions. I do remote sessions. This work is very powerful, also remotely. I've been a skeptic at first, but now after having done the work remotely and seeing the results, like, okay, I can't explain how it works, but it does, and I love that. And I do work with mothers. And this is my heart offering, is to do virtual monthly groups for mothers, so that if mothers don't have time, they can tune in virtually once a month and breathe in a group and just be held in this field, in the ceremonial setting, in the energetic field that I set, and do the work with other mothers. Because there's so much beauty in motherhood, and it's such an amazing unfolding process of just you constantly being initiated into the next phase, into the next phase, into the next phase. And so it gives us so many opportunities to shed our former selves and become something new. And just like with any healing work, when we actively resist that, that's where we suffer. And when we resist the growth, when we resist the evolution, the metamorphosis, because sometimes it's really painful and we're like, no, I don't want that. But it's just another step that's necessary for whatever it is that you're becoming. So I do this work with individuals and with mothers and with groups. I was thinking about what is my longing, what my heart's desire. I want to bring this work to professional settings, because I really believe that it can help with group dynamic. It can help with problem solving. It can help with really just opening up a lot of inspiration and, heart connected ways of interacting and being. So in 2020, what I'm calling in is opportunities to share this work in professional settings with teams.
That is so needed, especially if you have like a company culture that is toxic or that doesn't communicate well, or there's just dynamics that aren't working very well. So it's really great that you're also bringing that into this population. If somebody wanted to contact you, I guess they would just go to your website.
Just go to sonoprana.com, send me a note, sign up for the newsletter. I share on Instagram, I share thoughts and ideas and exercises about this work pretty consistently. I don't do a lot of posting, but I do some posting, and it's actually a really amazing space I found to connect with other healers and other people that do this work. So if you want to connect, just shoot me a line on Instagram, @Sonoprana, or send me an email through my website.
And just to give a shout out, you do your monthly events right now at Scarlet Sage in the Mission, your breath and sound circles. I'll have all your information in the show notes as well. Any last thoughts or any last things you wanted to share?
Well, first, I want to thank you for being such a gracious host and asking me such beautiful questions. It is wonderful to be here and share all this with you. And the parting words that I want to, leave everybody with is your breath is your medicine, and your voice is your medicine, and they're always with you. And you are powerful beyond measure.
Thank you. Boo, 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 boo. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's show. If you'd like to subscribe to the podcast so you can get these episodes downloaded as soon as they're available, please hit the subscribe button. You can also leave a rating and review for the podcast, which helps to grow the show and reach even more listeners. An additional way you can support Rainbows Are Circles is by donating $1 a month to the podcast. Every single dollar counts and ensures that Rainbows Are Circles stays alive and kicking. Just visit my Patreon page at patreon.com/rainbowsarecircles. I truly appreciate all of your support, and I hope to see you on the next episode. Until then, have a magical day. Bam, ba, bam, bam, ba, bam, 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 ba, bam, bam, ba, bam, bam. Wow, 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 wow. Rainbows are circles.